Hello, wrestling fans. Blake Smith from Walking the Ropes, and welcome to another episode of Walking the Ropes Wrestling Review for AEW Dynamite from Washington, D.C. But before that, make sure to check out the Walking the Ropes link tree for all things Walking the Ropes. To open the show, we had Jon Moxley walking down to the ring, making his return, and it's good to see him back where he belongs, in the middle of the wrestling ring. The fans are happy to see him, as am I, minus one fan who Moxley handled him by telling him to fuck off and kicking him out in the process. The fan decided to just straight up tell Moxley hey, get this drunk out of here or whatever. I couldn't really hear it, but the fact that he did that anyways, ridiculous. He talks about his issues and a dream he had where a dark cloud was following him around and laughing at him, saying none of what he has he's supposed to have. Talks about being scared and how we should be proud of our, talks about being scarred, and how we should be proud of our scars, and no matter if they are visible or not. After all of that, he says people will want to write him off, and that's fine. He will tell them the same thing he told the cloud: you can shove it up your ass. Everyone who supported him and told, he thanks everyone who supported him and tells them to buckle up this year, because it is his year. He puts the entire roster on notice and says that he's thirsty, and these days all he drinks is blood. I love it. I think that works perfectly. Moxley is back, and that was the best way to return. MJF talks about how CM Punk took the easy way out, also blames Wardlow, but wants to apologize for losing his cool on him. Says that Wardlow, so he does apologize to him, but then goes, but you put your hands on me, and that was out of line, so I'm going to dock your pay. Wardlow's very pissed off. They are building to this epic turn on MJF, and I cannot wait for it. He's going to be docking his pay, and Wardlow will get it back if he can get the TNT title for MJF. He then says that Spears will hand Punk his first loss in AEW, and MJF will be there to call it all. So yay, MJF on commentary. We then get a mixed tag team match: Adam Cole and Britt Baker versus Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander. This match is a very cool match. Adam Cole and Britt Baker team up for the first time in AEW, and they've only teamed up a handful of times before that. I look forward to seeing their chemistry in the ring and hope that this continues in the future, as I really want to see Britt running with the Elite and Adam Cole and all that. I think it works really well. Britt and Cole instantly start the mind games, tagging in and out, causing Orange and Chris to also tag in and out because it's an intergender match. I love that, because any momentum Orange or Chris would get, it's instantly stunted, and they have to start again. They have to build up their momentum again. Eventually, though, Orange and Chris get going and start to build double team moves up against Cole and Britt. The two teams are throwing everything they can think of at each other, and it almost looks like Chris and Orange may pull it off, as Chris gets a near fall with a blue thunder bomb. But Britt and Cole then think they also have it won after hitting a Canadian Destroyer on Statlander and a Panama Sunrise on Orange, but Orange is resilient, and they resort to pulling out a table to take him out. But Cole gets in the ring to grab Orange, and Orange comes sprinting at him. Cole ducks him. Orange bumps into Britt. She goes through the table. Cole, very upset but smart, notices the ref is distracted, hits a low blow on Orange Cassidy, followed by lowering the boom for the win. Adam Cole and Britt Baker defeat Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander. For my Malteser scale, I give this a 3.75 out of 5. It was a fantastic match. I really enjoyed it, and I am getting a little tired of the low blow finish because it is getting a little overdone, especially with the Elite, but I think it's coming to a point where we're going to get it not working anymore, and the Elite are in for a big reversal sort of thing. They're due for that. For the WTR scale, I gave this a 4 out of 5 because it is just this story has been really cool. It's building Orange and Cole, but it's also building a secondary story with Chris and Britt. So we could have a number one contenders match with Orange and Cole, and a championship match between Statlander and Baker, assuming everything works out well, but we shall see. Jericho and Santana and Ortiz talk about their match coming up, and Jericho says he doesn't care about Kingston, and Santana and Ortiz tell him Kingston might be right. They may need to leave the Inner Circle to finally become the AEW World Tag Team Champions. Jericho looks genuinely sad by them saying this. I really hope the Inner Circle doesn't break up because I love that group, and Jericho has elevated everyone in there. I mean, look at Sammy. He a few years ago, he wasn't on anybody's radar, and now I imagine a lot of people have him pegged as a future world champion. Adam Cole talks about what happened and says Cassidy will pay for what he's done, and at Beach Break, he will destroy Orange in a lights-out match. I love that because, let's assume Cole loses, doesn't go on his record. He's still undefeated. Then we have a singles match, CM Punk versus Shawn Spears, and this match has come because MJF keeps ducking Punk, or I guess he's trying to soften him up for when MJF finally has the balls to fight Punk himself. Punk, though, instantly hits the GTS and puts Spears to sleep for the win. CM Punk defeats Shawn Spears, and from my Malteser scale, I gave this a 3.25 out of 5. I mean, not a lot happened in the match, but it's a really cool thing that happened because it's exactly what Spears did on Rampage. So it is really cool. For the WTR scale, I gave it a 5 out of 5. This is perfect storytelling at its finest because it is not about Spears versus Punk. It is not about Wardlow versus Punk. It is about MJF versus CM Punk. That is where this is going, and they are just building it perfectly. After the match, MJF tries to jump Punk, but Punk saw it coming and almost takes MJF's head off, but MJF runs as Punk dons the scarf of MJF to taunt him. Billy Gunn then talks with Christian Cage backstage, and Billy says that the Gun Club should get a shot at the tag titles. Cage says to make a statement, and then maybe they will. Well, ask and you shall receive, as Colton and Austin jump Cage and throw him up against the garage door and beat on him mercilessly. We then get Cody Rhodes making his return to AEW as well, to a very mixed reaction. He's searching under the ring during the commercial break, and he sets up a ladder in the ring. I assume he's about to challenge Sammy Guevara to an undisputed TNT Championship match next week at Beach Break, a la Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon at, I believe, a WrestleMania 6? I can't remember what year it was. I know it was a Survivor Series. I'm all for this. I assumed that this is where we're going from the start. He talks about the first hint of a revolution, CM Punk and the pipe bomb, talks about what Punk had said and how he was unable to do the things he says he wanted to do. Says now he's here and says it's the biggest comeback of the decade. Where is he going with this? Talks about how he did everything Punk said he was going to do and how he was responsible for the revolution. Then talks about the Forbidden Door and says to check the dates. He was the one to build the door. He just got the crowd on his side. The crowd was mixed with him. There was some cheering, some booing. Everybody's on his side now. It is amazing. Talks about everything that happened while he was gone. Talks about Sammy, finally. And says the TNT title is not a secondary title. And the only reason it may be called that is because there are two now. Says Tony sent he and Sammy a contract, and maybe not the one he wanted, hinting at the fact that he might be working as a free agent for AEW. Says he knows what to do, climbs the ladder, and asks Sammy what he thinks. And he leaves. I don't know how he did it, but Cody successfully got that crowd on his side after what looked like a surefire heel turn. He started that off with immense heat because he worked a heel turn. It looked like it. Crowd started going with it. And then he immediately flipped them. It was amazing. Jade Cargill issues an open challenge, and Anna Jay answers it and says that Jade accepts her challenge, and they will have a match on Rampage, I believe. And Anna says she will do whatever it takes to win. Jade says this is her show, that bitch show. I'm not a fan of that. We get a tag team match, the House of Black versus the Varsity Blondes. The House of Black look to make a statement tonight in their tag team debut. They start working quickly as they control Griff. Pillman comes in but is scared off by Brody King, and Brody sprints around on the outside, sending Griff into the steps as Griff pushed Pillman out of the way. Pillman then tries to fight off the entire House of Black, but they hit the King's Inferno, I believe is what Excalibur called it, for the win. The House of Black defeats the Varsity Blondes. For my Teaser scale, I gave this a 3.75 out of 5. It was a very good match and pretty much exactly what you expected. We're trying to build Brody King as this big monster, and it's working. The WTR scale, I gave it a 4 out of 5. The story is there. It's great. After the match, Malachi talks to the crowd, but is quickly interrupted by Pac, and he says that he will not bow down and call Black master. And he will make a martyr of him as he pulls down the blindfold, showing he can once again see. Archer talks about his return, and Jake says that Archer doesn't wait in line. Says that he wants... Paige says if he wants a fight, he's got it. Roppongi Vice then take the Elite's camera time, and they're sick of them running the best friends. And they will reunite for one more night to take out the Young Bucks. We then get a singles match, Frankie Kazarian versus Lance Archer. Archer is on a rampage after he laid out the AEW World Champion. If I had to guess, he will make quick work of Frankie and make a statement tonight. Archer starts strong as he beats down Frankie, and he looks like he may be the next world champion if Paige can't figure out how to tame the rage inside of Archer. Maybe he should talk to Jon Moxley, who has beaten Archer, but just not on this anger level. Like, he's just a whole nother person. Archer is just toying with Kazarian, and he goes to finish it, but Frankie finally shows some life, but it seems like it's too little too late. After everything, he only gets a 1 count, and Archer then hits a choke slam, then a helicoaster, and the blackout for the win. Lance Archer defeats Frankie Kazarian, and for my Teaser scale, I gave this a 3.5 out of 5. Very good match. I kind of wish Frankie got a little more offense, because I do love me some Frankie Kazarian, but overall, I know where this is going, so I'm okay with the way it went. For the WTR scale, I gave it a 3.25 out of 5. There wasn't a whole lot of story besides the fact that we were hinting at the fact that Lance Archer is going for the title, and I'm okay with that because it is a good point, but we could add a little more into it. It's just me, personally. After the match, Tony Schiavone talks about the relationship between Lambert and Archer, and Lambert says that Paige isn't old enough and starts to make a whole load of references to cowboys and whatever, and how Paige isn't one of them. And then Archer interrupts him and says that enough of the cowboy bullshit, says he will show you what he will do, tosses Frankie out to the stage, sets up for a huge choke slam on the chair, but Paige comes out to make the save, and they stand toe to toe and start to brawl, and Paige jumps Archer to the outside. Dante Martin and Matt Sydal and Lee Moriarty talk, and Dante says that Sydal has had his back since Darius has been out, and Lee says that they're going to have his back until Darius comes back for saving them. Starks and Hobbs say they don't care who you have, they're ready. Statlander and Red Velvet are about to talk, but are interrupted by Layla Hirsch, and says that the only reason they lost is because Statlander wasn't focused. Red tries to bring them together, but Layla jumps Red and then Statlander as well, and they're separated by the refs. We then get a singles match, Sky Blue versus Serena Deeb. Serena Deeb has been more aggressive as of late, and I'm worried she's going to make an example of Sky tonight, as she has decades of experience on Blue. Sky wants to get revenge for the way Deeb has acted against Shida and is willing to do what it takes to do so. Sky surprises Deeb, but Deeb quickly stops her momentum and starts to beat down Sky. Deeb hits the Deeb talks but doesn't pin her, and instead targets the knee and locks in the Serenity for the win. Serena Deeb defeats Sky Blue. For the Malteser scale, I gave it a 3.25 out of 5. A very good match. Sky showed pretty decent offense, and I'm looking forward to more of what this is going for. For the WTR scale, I gave it a 3 out of 5 because it doesn't make sense why Deeb would be attacking Sky. I mean, yeah, there is a bit of a link with Shida. I just think that we could continue this match, or this with another Shida segment, but that's okay. Ethan Page talks about Moxley returning and says that he wants to be the first to take on Moxley, and he wants to do so at Rampage. Matt says that he and Andrade are partners now, and Andrade is part of the HFO, having purchased, I can't remember exactly what percentage he said, and that Matt will be doing the day-to-day operations, and Andrade will handle pretty much everything else. The Acclaim show a Darby-esque video, and they make their way to the ring. It was basically just mocking Darby. We get a tag team match, The Acclaimed versus Sting and Darby Allin, and this is an interesting match. The Acclaimed have an issue with Sting and Darby, but it mainly seems like Sting. They look to show who is the best. They jump Darby and Sting and put a chair around Darby's neck and send him flying into the ring post before the match can even start. Sting decides that he is going to take on the Acclaimed by himself, and credit to him, he does well to start out, dumping Max to the outside and then targeting Bowens. Sting, though, has to fight off both men at the same time no matter where he is, so he uses the environment to his advantage, sending them into the steps and then even to even the playing field. But Bowens rips off the turnbuckle while Max was getting beaten down, and they are able to take control after sending Sting into the exposed metal. Sting has done well to slow the Acclaimed, but he's only one man, and he can only do so much, especially if he's fighting, or if the team he's fighting keeps cheating and smashing him with a boombox until, finally, Darby makes it back to the ring and helps Sting. Darby takes control, and he and Sting double team the Acclaimed, and Sting does a suicide dive from the stage through the timekeeper's table, sending Max Caster through it, while Darby hits a stunner and the coffin drop for the win inside the ring. Darby Allin and Sting defeat the Acclaimed, and for my Malteser scale, I gave this a 4.25 out of 5, having Sting, however many years old he is, doing a suicide dive off the stage. That was insane. It was a great match. For the WTR scale, I gave it a 4 out of 5. It's been very good. This has been a very top story for AEW, and I've been loving it. Overall, for the show, I gave it a 4.25 out of 5. It was a very good show. They did exactly what they needed with a lot of returns and a lot on the card, too. They did well with what the time restraints they had. For the segment of the night, I give it to Cody turning heel and then doesn't. I just loved that whole segment. The match of the night is the main event. They did so well, and the performer of the night this time only goes to Sting. He did amazing and just absolutely proved any doubters wrong if there were any. Absolutely fantastic. But that is all for this episode of Walking the Ropes Wrestling Review. Thank you all for dropping in. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notifications whenever we upload a video. And I'll see you in the next one.